In 1954, Christian Dior declared that a woman's perfume tells more about her than her handwriting, while Marcel Roche suggested that a man should smell of his cigar, his leather, and his clean skin, never of a flower bed. The 1950s was an extraordinary period for perfumery. New aroma chemicals extended the palette of the perfumer, and the mass acceptance of scent as an everyday luxury saw a huge growth in the market. Fragrance became widely accessible and was seen less as a precious gift used only on a special occasion. Bold floral, spicy, and green compositions became signature scents for everyday wear. Let's look at a selection of scents from the period. In 1953, the Austrian firm Kosmetikei Neuner launched their fragrance Alt Innsbruck, or Innsbruck in English. This seemingly simple eau de cologne is, for me, one of the most appealing smells in perfumery. The producer Cosmetic describes the scent as traditional, composed around a blend of Virginia tobacco and mint menthol. Alt Innsbruck has a lasting cooling quality, no doubt due to its high content of refreshing menthol. The formula is said to be unchanged since 1953. Here is a bottle bought this year. I've worn this scent off and on for more than 30 years. 100ml cost me just over £20, although if you want the pleasingly old-fashioned sprayer, it costs extra. The logo carries the magic formula, a ratio of 66 to 60. The website claims it's a blend of 66 different essential oils and 60% alcohol, so I imagine that the 66 is perfume oil content rather than 66 different natural ingredients. Alt Innsbruck is such a brilliantly simple and linear scent that it seems redundant to talk about bergamot, lavender, clove that sit alongside tobacco leaves and menthol. Corny as it sounds, this wonderful cologne really does live up to the advertising that suggests it's cool and refreshing like a Tyrolean mountain stream, a timeless fragrance suitable for every occasion and cultivated appearance. Alt Innsbruck is a must for anyone, male or female, looking for non-citrus freshness with a slightly sweet aromatic tone. I recommend decanting to respray during the day. This is not a very forceful scent, but it's truly delicious. Now let's turn to a classic of French perfumery. The creation of Diorissimo is one of the most interesting stories in the history of scent. The beauty of the perfume has made it greatly loved, and it's held a special place in people's hearts for well over half a century. Christian Dior himself loved Lily of the Valley. In fact, the very superstitious fashion designer considered the flower to be a talisman or good luck charm. In Italian, the suffix issimo means extremely or most, so Diorissimo indicates that the scent is a superlative example of Dior's work or style. Edmund Rudnitzer worked for years to perfect the scent and developed a unique approach. He said, "Diorissimo was the pioneer. I clung to the motto, simplify, 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 for all the perfumes I created afterwards. I started with all the new synthetic products that were appearing. I eliminated any chemical that was being used too much." The unique magic of Lily of the Valley, the delicious scent of the flowers and their enchanting form, drove Rudnitzer to get closer to nature. He said, "I picked notes that were fresher, lighter, more transparent. I was working on the Lily of the Valley accord. I had a field of lilies in my garden. Every spring I worked on the note beginning in 1952. By 1955, I had got to the point that seemed to have value." Lily of the Valley differs from other white florals. It isn't narcotic like tuberose. It's not indolic or sharp. There's a distinctive, cool, transparent floral sweetness with fresh, clean, green elements and a very slight bitterness. For me, Lily of the Valley rivals in quality the fullness and splendor of fresh roses. Lily of the Valley has been said to have a ghostly quality because the flowers, which are intensely fragrant in the garden, cannot be captured by any commercially viable extraction method. Steam distillation destroys the delicate volatiles. Solvent extraction and CO2 yields only trace amounts, too small for production. The volatile fragrant emissions of the living flower are produced in real time. They're not stored in the tissue, hence post-harvest extraction fails. Furthermore, all parts of the plant are very poisonous. Rudnitzer himself stated, "Diorissimo is a stylized lily of the valley. I remember that Coty had a lily that was called Muguet de Bois. It pushed the green juice of the flower. It was never a success. I told myself I have to make it into a perfume, so I stylized my note. It's as fresh and ethereal as a spring rain on a white garden." Here is a vintage bottle of Coty's Muguet de Bois. It retains the greenness and rather vegetal quality that Rudnitzer refers to, having only a passing resemblance to the delicious scent of the real flowers. Rudnitzer presented his perfume to Christian Dior and reported that he immediately said it would be his next perfume. The artist René Grau produced lovely images to launch Diorissimo. He said of his relationship with the house, I felt very close to the restless Christian Dior. He would discuss his ideas with me. There existed between us a very fruitful mutual bond that I've not encountered again since his passing. At the launch of Durissimo in the Avenue Montaigne Dior Salon, Durissimo was presented in a hand-cut baccarat crystal bottle crowned with a bouquet of gold-plated bronze flowers. Here is a group of Durissimo perfumes, a modern one from 2011, and the rest all pre-1980, an eau de cologne surprisingly strong and crisp, these EDTs, and a precious vintage parfum. What's striking about all the vintage scents is that they're so strong but very mellow, not harsh or overly sweet. The resemblance to the real scent of Lily of the Valley is obvious. This year, after a wait of nearly 24 months, I managed to produce some Lily of the Valley flowers, which I could compare to Durissimo. The parfum is particularly close. The EDC and EDTs have a fresher cut apple note and a lovely aldehydic projection. Sadly, the modern Durissimo, bought in New York 15 years ago, is inferior. It starts out reasonably well, but soon becomes a little harsh, and the dry down has a jarring, slightly rancid butter element. It's odd that Dior didn't do better. It's well documented that the aromacochemical hydroxycitronellal was used by Rudnitska to build Durissimo, and although the recent formulas include it, its use is restricted by IFRA. The dewy sweetness of hydroxycitronellal, first commercialized by Nolan Company around 1905, was the breakthrough, an aqueous floral aldehyde distinctly reminiscent of Lily of the Valley, convincing enough to form the base of entire compositions. In 1912, Robert Bien-Aimé used it in Houbigon's Quelques Fleurs. During the 20th century, a family of Lily of the Valley molecules accumulated. However, regulatory control removed much of this toolkit. Lyral, which gave a linden blossom element, was banned by the EU. The restriction of Lilial, which had a clean muguet note, followed. These restrictions forced the reformulation of hundreds of fragrances. Sadly, Durissimo no longer appears to be sold from the UK Dior website, but it's still available in the US. After smelling the delicious vintage parfum, it's impossible not to mourn the loss of this perfect, joyful scent. While Paris continued to grow as the centre of fashion and perfume during the 50s, Britain faced a slow recovery after the war, and rationing lasted well into the decade. To promote a sense of recovery, the British government supported the Festival of Britain in 1951 as a national exhibition and fair held throughout the United Kingdom. The focus was on British science, technology, industrial design, architecture and the arts. It proved very popular, with over 10 million paid admissions to its 6 main exhibitions, and helped reshape British arts, craft and design for a generation. Visitors flocked to the main focus of the festival on London's South Bank site, where they found the Dome of Discovery, Skylon and New Festival Hall. Up and down Britain, smaller festivals were embraced with enthusiasm. After years of total war, crushing austerity and gloom, the atmosphere was enthusiastic and celebratory. The festival made a spectacular setting as a showpiece for the inventiveness and genius of British scientists and technologists. Journalist Harry Hopkins highlighted the impact of the contemporary festival style, clean, bright and new. It caught hold quickly and spread across London and then across England. In an island hitherto largely given up to gravy browns and dull greens, contemporary bold espoused strong primary colours. In Paris in 1954, Francis Fabron created the perfume L'Interdit under the direction of Hubert de Givenchy. The word interdit in French means forbidden. It has a floral, airy, powdery aroma. There is rose, jasmine and a prominent violet, and at the base a blend of woods and grasses. There's also an interesting strawberry note. Aldehydes feature strongly here and in many other 50s perfumes. They're valued in perfumery because they project a scent and have characteristics variously described as reminiscent of the smell of soap, frost and freshly cleaned sheets. There is some clove and tonka in the base. Here is an old parfum, some EDT from the 90s, and a reinterpretation from the Le Parfum Mythique range from 2007, which Givenchy launched as a high-quality homage to their classic range. The parfum is very violet, less powdery than the EDT. The aldehydes are missing, but sandalwood and musk come through. The parfum is excellently balanced, but more sensual and less innocent in feel. The EDT is very pretty, and the strawberry jam note is projected by the aldehydes. The 2007 version has less violet and more heliotrope and peony. It's still powdery, recognizable of the 50s scent, and rather good. There are also modern scents from Givenchy called L'Interdit, which were launched in 2018, but they're not related to Audrey Hepburn's scent apart from their name. In 1957, Hubert de Givenchy decided to market the perfume, to which Audrey Hepburn replied, "But I forbid you," which led to the scent being called L'Interdit, or the Forbidden One. The star eventually participated in the promotion of the perfume. L'Interdit quickly became successful, with 4,000 sales in the first days, a promising figure considering at the time it was only sold in France. In 1957, Audrey Hepburn starred in Stanley Donen's film Funny Face. She plays a youthful but dowdy librarian who is swept up into the world of fashion magazines and haute couture. Funny Face demonstrates the reverence that America had for Europe and above all Parisian style in the 1950s. It seems a little strange that Hepburn could ever be seen as an ugly duckling, but the idea of youth being at the centre of the fashion world was new in the 50s. Improbably elegant models like Davima and the classically beautiful Susie Parker, who was the face of Chanel No. 5 in the 50s, appear in the movie. The film also showcases the brilliant fashion photography of Richard Avedon. In fact, Hepburn's co-star Fred Astaire plays a character similar to the photographer. Avedon's brilliant and artistic work was a perfect frame for the rather formal fashions of the period. Like Cecil Beaton, Avedon added wit, lightness, and originality, creating an era-defining body of work. I'd like to take a moment to look briefly at another scent, Florissimo by Creed. This bottle is from the 2000s. Creed claimed for a long time that this complex floral scent was worn by Grace Kelly on her wedding day after her fiancé Prince Rainier commissioned it from Creed in 1956. The story is another fabrication. Creed was still a tailoring business and not a perfume house in the 50s. Notwithstanding, the internet is full of references to the story. Grace Kelly's signature scent during that era was actually Chateau Kriegler No. 12, a classic floral musk launched in 1912. According to the historical records from the Kriegler archives, Kelly discovered the fragrance at the Plaza Hotel in New York City. 1953 was an important year for Estée Lauder and perfumery in America. Youth Dew was launched, originally as a bath oil. It was a revolutionary fragrance, a spicy amber blend of rose, jasmine, vetiver, and patchouli, with a heavy base of balsams. By presenting Youth Dew as a highly perfumed bath oil, women were encouraged to buy the perfume for themselves, rather than waiting for a man to purchase it for them, a novel approach. Legend has it that the creative and formidable Estée Lauder smashed a bottle of her new perfume in the hall of a department store in order to ensure interest for the new fragrance. Whether this story is true or not, Lauder secured a series of deals with department stores for her new fragrance. Samples were promoted relentlessly, and by the mid-50s, Youth Dew accounted for half of the company's sales. The scent was favoured by several very high-profile stars and celebrities of the time, like Dolores Del Rio, Wallis Simpson, Gloria Swanson, and Joan Crawford. Actress Dolores Del Rio commented that the secret to driving men gaga was brushing your hair with Youth Dew. It's said that Joan Crawford met her husband while dancing, wearing Youth Dew brushed in her hair. Youth Dew was sold in a curvaceous, stylish bottle with characteristic typeface in light blue. The ribbed glass bottle with a golden bow came later. My mother had a blue bottle of Youth Dew in the bathroom cabinet when I was a child, though I don't remember her wearing it. I went through all the bottles in the cabinet, and Youth Dew had for me the friendliest, most delicious aroma. The scent has a distinct cola note, which is no doubt part of its appeal to me as a child. Youth Dew has a timeless quality that preempts both cinnabar and opium. It's composed of things that humans have considered beautifully scented for millennia: spices, flowers, fruits, balsams, oak moss, patchouli, incense, frankincense, musk, and vanilla. There are more modern ingredients like aldehydes, benzyl salicylate, and ambien, which imparts notes of amber, leather, and resins. The creator of Youth Dew, Josephine Catapano, used an unprecedented 30% perfume oil in the scent. The blend of cloves, cinnamon, peach, orange, Coca-Cola, jasmine, narcissus, lily of the valley, jasmine, and all those profound base notes is truly remarkable. Here is an old Youth Dew Parfum de Sachet, a modern eau de parfum, and a mysterious little bottle that was sold to me as Youth Dew Parfum. The Parfum de Sachet is smooth and delicious. It's mellow and doesn't radiate like the EDP. The EDP is wild and wonderful. It opens like spice rum and coke. The spiciness builds. It has strength and depth. Its potency is almost explosive, but the depth of the extremely heavy base makes it feel somehow aged. I remember that even in the 1970s, Youth Dew had a reputation because of its strength. The advent of cinnabar and opium led to a fashion for spicy scents decades later. Intriguingly, an article in Fragrantica claims that Cinnabar was sold as soft youth dew in the 1970s in bottles similar to this small bottle. This scent simply says Estee Lauder, but it does genuinely smell like a cross between youth dew and Cinnabar. Finally, here is a flanker, Youth Dew Amber Nude, released in 2005. It was created by perfumer Christophe Ledamiel under the direction of Tom Ford as a modern limited edition reinterpretation of Youth Dew. It smells like Maker's Mark and Cola. There is a ginger fruitiness. It's lighter than the original. Now let's travel to Italy. Pinot Silvestre was originally produced in 1955 by the Venetian company Vidal Profumi. It was created by the chemist and perfumer Lino Vidal. The scent is famous for its pine cone-shaped bottle. The Italian word silvestre equates to sylvan, or of the wood, or the wild. Here is a bottle from the 2000s. The rather dense opening is a blend of juniper, lemon, lavender, and bergamot. The top notes are quite fresh, but this scent does not have a bracing burst of citrus. Resinous pine needles soon dominate, with their distinct aromatic character, and the slightly weird vegetal accord is strengthened by carnation, caraway, clary sage, and geranium. Anyone who's been to Italy and walked along a pine tree-lined street in the warm sunshine will recognize the pine accord. The base has oak moss, musk, amber, and tonka. The dense and dark nature of the scent is very enjoyable. I occasionally wore Pinot Silvestre in the past. It has a unique earthy, peppery pine feel. It's a rather masculine scent that's close to nature but rather elegant. The current website carries a slightly quaint, almost 1950s message. Our philosophy is to deliver stronger scents, making your life experiences stimulate and spice up your VIP lifestyle even more. I haven't bought a bottle of Pinot Silvestre for years, but you can get 125ml for just under £19, so whether you've got a VIP lifestyle or not, it won't break the bank. The website summarizes the appeal of the scent well. Virility, freshness, and nature are the three characteristics of Pinot Silvestre. Jacques Guerlain created Aude, his last perfume, in 1955, with the assistance of his grandson Jean-Paul, then aged 18. Jean-Paul Guerlain went on to create Habit Rouge, Chamade, Nehema, and Derby, amongst others, for the company. Much has been said about the connection of Aude to Patou's Joy, and indeed there are similarities. It is claimed that the name Aude was chosen as an intentional ode or homage to the Patou scent. There is a further reminder in Beethoven's composition Ode to Joy. Here is a bottle of Eau de Parfum from the mid-50s, so very near to the perfume's release. When I compare it to my Joy Parfum from earlier in this century, there's a similarity. But whereas Joy builds on the resonant rose-jasmine accord, Ode deviates and takes an interesting turn, with distinct notes of heliotrope, iris, and as the perfume develops, there's a lovely Mirabelle plum note. Ode is less symphonic, more powdery, and ultimately a little spikier. There's a distinct and wonderful sandalwood as the scent develops, along with a lot of musk. The dry down is a typical oriental vanilla heliotrope, quite unlike Joy. Even if you see Ode as a tribute to the magnificent Joy, I think it stands on its own quite beautifully, and this old parfum has aged remarkably well. Ode was launched in the rosebud bottle and later produced in the round Montre bottle. Ode appears in Ian Fleming's novel On Her Majesty's Secret Service, published in 1963, and made into a film in 1969, starring George Lazenby as James Bond and Diana Rigg as his eventual wife, Teresa Tracy Di Vincenzo. My parents took my brothers and me to see the film in Leicester Square when it came out. Although I was very young, I remember watching the film vividly. It has remained my favourite Bond film, despite it being the only Bond made by Lazenby. I love the chemistry between the actors and the slightly ambivalent tone of the film. In a very racy scene in the novel, Fleming describes how Tracy reached up a swift hand that smelt of Guerlain's Ode and put it across Bond's lips. Now let's hop over to Germany. In 1959, Maurer and Wirtz first produced Tabak. The Maurer and Wirtz website says, Tabak Original is a distinct tart spicy fragrance composition that gets its classically cultivated signature from precious woods, musk, ambergris, and floral notes. The floral notes are rather dominant for a masculine. The opening of Tabak is not akin to a traditional eau de cologne. In fact, it's distinctly aldehydic. Geranium, chamomile, and lavender come to the fore. The dry down is a unique and very pleasing, silvery blend of musk, sandalwood, and ambergris. Tabak has been hugely popular in Germany since it was released. Here is the current eau de toilette. It's the same amphora shape used since 1959. The aftershave strength looks identical, but it's a splash. I like the aftershave, but dislike the EDT, which is much more assertive and a rather different scent. The EDT feels much more modern, which may appeal to a lot of people. My attachment to tobacco aftershave goes back many years. The appeal to me is the wonderful unusual dry down, which is somewhat like a gentle masculine Chanel No. 5 ETT. The softness, vaguely floral tobacco and ambergris is classic and refined. This gentle, lovely dry down doesn't happen with the eau de toilette. I hadn't bought tobacco for years until these recent purchases, but it was great to see that the aftershave was basically unchanged over 15 years. I imagine tobacco has been tinkered with many times, and the opening of the aftershave is a little rougher than I remember, but it soon gets past that. Tobacco is another interesting and excellent scent that survived since the 1950s and can be purchased today for less than £20. Alt Innsbruck, Pinot Silvestre, and Tobacco are three very different fragrances. Each is unique, distinctive, and excellent. They're proof that a scent can be comfortable as a pair of well-worn shoes. In 1933, the Swiss designer Robert Piguet launched his own fashion house on the Rue du Cercle in Paris. It was an immediate success. Vogue declared him the master of the little wool dress. He became known as the most Parisian of fashion designers. In the early 1940s, Piguet began a collaboration with the perfumer Germaine Cellier, who created Bandit and Fracas for the designer. There will be a part 2 video on 1950s fragrances that will feature Cellier's perfume Jolie Madame, and I will look more in detail at her work then. In 1950, Piguet produced Bagari. Piguet had asked perfumer Francis Fabron to craft a scent for a wistful romantic dreamer. It was named after an exotic city in India. It was to be the last perfume launched by Piguet himself. In 2006, the relaunched brand asked perfumer Aurélien Guichard to bring the forgotten fragrance back to life. Although the formula was updated, it was said to be faithful to the original. Here is a bottle from 2008. This is a superb fragrance. From the outset and through the life of the scent, there's a beautiful mellow orange note, not a fresh, sharp or overly sweet orange. It's nearer to candied orange peel, where the sweetness is balanced by aromatic orange oil. There are florals, rose and jasmine that are blended with aldehydes, amber, musk and vanilla. The scent is gently powdery. A ylang note, close to the one found in Chanel No. 5 Perfume, weaves its way through the perfume. Although orange is not mentioned on the website, the defining character of Bagari is a lightly spiced edible orange. There's a cordiality and elegance in this scent. It's a favourite of mine. There are a number of other fragrances from the 1950s that I want to look at, and I'll save them for another time. As the years have passed, some of the scents I've discussed have changed radically, been lost from the marketplace, or been discarded in all but name. It's pleasing to see revivals and the persistence of quality, inexpensive masculine scents, as well as blockbusters like Youth Dew. The work of Ifra has led to the demise of several treasures from the 50s, as in the case of Diorissimo. I find it astonishing that Dior has not taken better care of its classics. Perhaps they could reflect on the words of Christian Dior himself, who said, "Long after one has forgotten what a woman wore, the memory of her perfume lingers."